Hi everybody. Steinberg has just released Absolute 7, their virtual instrument collection. And as an owner of Absolute 6, I decided to check their website and see what was new and exciting in the new version. And I said to myself, there's not that much there. It's a little underwhelming if you ask me. But my pathological need to continuously acquire more music software kicked in, and before I knew it, it was in my cart and it was installed on my system. So today, I'm going to take you through everything that's new in Absolute 7 and give my unfiltered and quite incisive criticism of the package, in addition to some well-deserved praise. Let's do it. So I want to focus on everything that's new in Absolute 7 compared to Absolute 6, and the marquee item that is new is Groove Agent 6. Groove Agent 6 is Steinberg's drum machine plugin, and users of Cubase will be familiar with Groove Agent SE, which is sort of a stripped down version of the Groove Agent software. And I do think that SE might stand for stripped down edition, but I think it could also stand for sort of exactly the same edition, because Groove Agent SE does almost 95% of what Groove Agent does, but because I use Groove Agent as my primary drum VST, I like to have the full version because there's some quality of life and ease of use improvements, in addition to some sonic things in the new one, like replacing samples in the acoustic agent, that I think will be useful to me, and I use it all the time. So I decided to upgrade Absolute, mostly because I would get Groove Agent 6, and Steinberg cleverly priced the Groove Agent update at more than half of the update for the entire Absolute collection. So it made it a no-brainer for me to buy the whole collection instead of just updating one of the instruments. So in addition to Groove Agent 6, which deserves its own video if we want to talk about all the new functionality, but that's not the purview of this video, there's two libraries included. The first one is called Color Punch, and we can hear that here. It sounds an awful lot like every other E kit you've ever heard, and this lives in Groove Agent's Beat agent. So they have a Beat agent, which does sort of like E kits, and then they have an acoustic agent, which is like realistically sampled drum kits. And there is a brand new realistically sampled drum kit as well, and that is called the Punch Kit. And that's going to lead me to my first criticism. This is called Color Punch. The new kit is called the Punch Kit. The new lo-fi instrument from Halion is called Colors Lo-Fi Strum, and the symphonic library that they've included with the update is called Orchestral Colors. So if you're not going to include a lot with your update, don't give everything the same name, or it'll be confusing and you'll think like you're getting less than you actually are. That's my first criticism and my first piece of advice to Steinberg. But let's go back to the Punch Kit, because it is a nice, real heavy rock kit. I'll let you guys hear it here. It's real punchy from what I'm hearing, and I like it. I think it's cool. I always love having more acoustic drum kits, and I will do music in this style sometimes, so it's nice to have a drum kit that's tailor-made. For my money, my favorite part of Groove Agent, or my favorite kit, is the one that's just called The Kit. That's my favorite sounding drum set in Groove Agent. Just FYI, that's not part of the update that was included before, but the kit lives in my template because it's a versatile drum set. With that being said, let's move on to the next instrument that they've included, and the one that's number 2 in the marketing material, and that's called Machina. And what it is a sampled 7-string guitar. And I actually don't have any 7-string guitars in my studio. The lowest I can get to is C, because I have a guitar that the neck is a little bit wobbly and it's tuned down to D standard, and I can drop it to C. So I wrote a little piece of music in C sharp you'll hear in a minute, but this has, I can just detach the browser here and show you, it has the samples, and you can have different articulations, plucks, pinch harmonics, taps, power chords, and you can either have them amped or DI, and the DI would be nice if you wanted to bring your own amp simulator. I've just used it straight out of the instrument, so this is the standard amped power chord palm mute, and I'll let you guys hear it. So yeah, pretty brutal stuff. And the other patch that I loaded up just for purposes of demonstration was a tapping patch, of course. And that sounds a little bit like this. And like I said, that's the sound straight out of the instrument. I've done no post-processing on any of these instrument tracks. There's just post-processing, as you can see on the left here on my voiceover. So this is what it'll sound like straight out of the instrument. You can also play it DI and add an amp sim if you want, which is what I'd assume a lot of people would do if they're looking to get the perfect sound. But I've programmed a little beat with the punch kit and a little bit of music with the Axe Machina, and I think this is what they're trying to make the Axe Machina and the punch kit sound like in an ideal environment. So yeah, you can get pretty brutal with that Axe Machina. It's a 7-string guitar. You can get real low and chuggy and tappy, and the world is your oyster. I play guitar, so I don't see myself using this that much, although I don't have a 7-string guitar, but I don't find myself needing to make chugga music too often. But if I did, I know that I have a tool that will help me do it. So let's move on to some of the other libraries. The color punch kit I showed you already, and I made a little E-beat type of deal here. And I included the other 3 libraries that are sort of tailored towards that. There's a retro log expansion called, I forget what it's called, but Vintage Classics. And I'll get back to this because I really had a fun time with this. But it's a retro log expansion. There's patches in there. There's an FM8 expansion, new presets called Carrier 8. And you can see there's all these presets for FM8. And I recently did a video on FM Lab, which is Cubase's FM synthesizer. And there's not enough weed in the whole state of Colorado to make me go through all of these and listen to them. I've a little burnt out on FM synthesis, but I just chose a patch at random to put into this composition. And then the Halion Sonic library that I added, or Halion 7 library that I added, was this new one called Colors Lo-Fi Tapes. You can't really choose presets from this browser. You have to choose them from the user interface, which is a little strange. And you can add layers. I think there's 4 layers total, and you can make sounds. So we've heard the color punch kit. I'll add in the retro log bass. And now the Carrier 8 FM synth. And finally, the Colors Lo-Fi strum. So yeah, I mean, all those preset packs sound fine. Everybody loves a synth preset, and that's what Color Punch, Vintage Classics, Carrier 8, and Lo-Fi Strum sound like in context. Of course, there's more to it than just that, but that's part of it. The next thing that comes included with Absolute 7 are pianos. The first one that they've included is called Etude. And this is like a concert grand. I am a terrible pianist, but I suppose for the sake of example, I'll subject you guys to the most amateur version of Greensleeves you've ever heard. Let's do it. Nailed it. Yeah, so I'm not a pianist. There's a guy on YouTube called Simeon Ambergay, and he did I think that's his name. Kind of seems like I'm making it up when I say it out loud. But he did a deep dive into Etude, and he's actually a piano player. I'll let you hear exactly what Etude sounds like, the whole keyboard right now. This is all 88 notes sequenced in a row. So yeah, it's a piano. It sounds like a piano. It sounds pretty good. And then the other piano that they've included is called Verve. And I might as well subject you to another amateur rendition of Greensleeves. This is what Verve sounds like out of the box. Didn't nail that one quite as well. So I think the concept behind Verve is that it's a felt piano, and then you can add layers. So it's like a multi-timbral thing, but the multi-timbrality is curated. So I can click on this and you'll see texture. I'll add a texture. So we'll add Good Vibes. We'll go back to the main screen and make the balance half and half. And you'll hear like half vibraphone, half piano. So I think that's the concept behind that. But that leads me to my first big criticism, which is that Verve was included in Cubase. So I'm paying for part of an update that I don't even get the benefit of. And that's sort of a problem across this series of products. The Absolute 7 products, there's no consideration given to longtime Steinberg loyalists. You actually end up getting less value for the same price than if you used a different DAW. So that's a little bit annoying, and I'm not saying that Steinberg should charge me less. I'm suggesting it, but maybe even just like throw in a sample pack or something if you're a Cubase Pro user. That would be really a nice thing to do, because I already had this, and I felt like I was paying for something that I already had, which is not that cool, in my opinion. So that's that, and we'll move on to the final piece of the puzzle with Absolute, the final thing that they've included, and it's an orchestral sample library called the Orchestra Colors. So once again, we have Color Punch, Color Lo-Fi Tape, and now we also have the Orchestra Colors. And if you came to my video to learn about Absolute, you came to the right place. But if you also came to hear the most hastily composed orchestral cue in the history of orchestral cue composition, you also came to the right place. I've loaded up 4 patches. There's a strings patch. There's a horns patch. There's a woodwinds patch. And of course, there's a percussion patch. Cool. And I'll just play through and let you hear the cue that I've composed for the Orchestra Colors. And yeah, it sounds pretty nice. I think one nice thing about it is that it doesn't have a very big install size. And so real composers, unlike myself, will probably want to know that because the install size is so small, I think it's less than 10 gigabytes, the strings actually have no legato, which is a sacrifice you make when you sort of bring down the size of the library. However, I could see this being useful if you wanted to sketch out stuff. Useful sort of like Iconica Sketch, which is included with Cubase and sort of serves the same purpose. And also with Absolute 7, they include something called Halion Symphonic Library. I guess now that we're done with this, I can take a look here. And the Halion Symphonic Orchestra does have legato patches. And here's my question. When you include a new orchestral library with Absolute, are you saying that this old one, whose graphics are less fancy than the new one, for sure, is now obsolete because there's a new one in town? And I think that also applies to, if we look at the piano samples, Steinberg has one called the Grand 3, and they've been selling this piano library for a long time, but then they've also taken the time to include a very similar library called Etude with newer graphics and shinier appointments in the new Absolute. But this one is still included with Absolute. So, I mean, you can say, yeah, get this package. We have 15 pianos. Each one's better than the last. And then it's like, well, if each one's better than the last, why wouldn't I just use number 15? Like, that's makes sense to me. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure there are some other purposes for the Grand that Etude does not cover, but you're sort of spoiled for choice. And by releasing new things that sort of step on the toes of your old products, you're kind of implying that your old products have run their course. And if you're implying that, why are you still including them in the bundle package if there's something better out there? Those are my thoughts about including something new in a bundle that does the exact same thing that something old in the bundle did, is that you don't have faith in your product anymore. From my perspective, that seems like a possibility. So yes, we have Etude, but don't forget that you also have the Grand 3, and you have the Orchestra Colors, but don't forget that you also have Halion Symphonic Orchestra, in addition to having the Iconica sketches in Cubase, if you're a Cubase user. So that's one of my thoughts about this package, is that there's a lot of duplication of effort, and I'm starting to wonder why. But that's everything new in Absolute 7, and I just want to make a final statement about software reviews like this. I used to do a bunch of them for this channel, and then I took a long break, but when I used to do them, I would get evaluation copies, basically free copies of the software, and it totally changed my decision calculus of how I would present a review, because A, I didn't pay for it, and B, I wanted to keep getting free software. Now that I've taken this long break, no one's sending me evaluation copies anymore, I feel like I can be more honest and sort of nitpick a little things that sort of bother me about some of these software packages, and that's because I'm paying for them. And I will always disclose if someone sent me an evaluation copy, but I paid for this update out of pocket, and I'm happy to sort of be more honest in reviewing software like this, because it's your hard-earned money too if you choose to upgrade. Now, with that being said, let's just wrap this all up. There's a new version of Groove Agent. That's the whole reason I got Absolute 7. And you heard Axe Machina, the Punch Kit, Colors Punch, the Carrier 8 preset, and everything else in context. And I hope it sort of gave you an idea of whether or not this upgrade is right for you. But I do want to talk about the joy of musical instruments. I don't want to just sit here and talk shit about everything Steinberg's doing, because they included something here with Absolute 7 that really brightened my day and put a smile on my face. And that was, I've already alluded to it, or I've already used it in a composition, the Vintage Classics presets. That it's a preset pack that comes with Retrolog. And before we leave, I don't want to leave on a sour note. I want to show you the joy of making music with virtual instruments using Retrolog's Virtual Classics. So in my section up here, I have some classic patches loaded up. See if you can guess this one. Or this one. That's right, folks. The Retrolog Vintage Classics preset pack has a bunch of your favorite synth sounds from the 1980s. And I can't tell you the amount of joy this brought me. Doing everything that I did to prepare for this video, the most fun I had was loading up these presets, and they give you sort of cheeky names that are similar to what you're getting, like Hungry Wolf ARP. I wonder what that is. Or Criminal Bass, like you heard, or LA Cop Lead, like you also heard. And I can't tell you how much fun I've had just loading these patches up, and I don't even know if I'll make music with them, but loading them up and trying to play the songs that I can hear the second I start banging away on the keys has been a source of joy. And I think that instruments are designed to bring joy, and I will say, unexpectedly, Vintage Classics, the preset pack from Retrolog, has brought me the most joy out of everything that's included in Absolute 7. And I didn't want to end on a sour note. I wanted to end on a happy note. So with that, I think I'll let you guys go. I hope that this video has been helpful. If it has, feel free to like or subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.